They say where there's smoke, there's fire. But in the WNBA right now, it's not just smoke, the whole house is burning down. If you've been scrolling through social media lately, you've seen the headlines, you've seen the rumors. The league is in a state of absolute panic. But here's the thing, this isn't just clickbait. This isn't just fans overreacting. We are watching the real-time collapse of a sports monopoly. And at the center of this seismic event is one name, Caitlin Clark. For months, the narrative has been building. The idea that Caitlin is targeted, that the old guard resents her, that the league office is actively trying to sabotage the biggest moneymaker they've ever had. And while some people call that a conspiracy theory, you have to look at how the league is acting. They aren't acting like confident executives. They're acting like they're under siege, because they are. They are fighting a three-front war, an internal mutiny by the players, a hostile takeover by rival leagues with deep pockets, and a full-blown insurrection by the fans. Let's start with the rumor that set the internet on fire, the golf ban. You heard the whispers. Reports surfaced claiming Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and the WNBA tried to stop Caitlin from playing in LPGA Pro-Am events. The theory was that they were terrified she'd get hurt, or worse, that she'd realize life is a lot nicer on a golf course than getting body checked in the paint. Now, did they actually ban her? No. She played. She teed it up at the Enica with the #1 golfer in the world, Nelly Korda. But here is why that rumor went viral. Because it felt true. It felt true because the difference in how the LPGA treated Caitlin versus how the WNBA treats her was night and day. The LPGA treated her like royalty. They broadcast the event. They hyped it up. Meanwhile, you have WNBA fans begging their own league just to post accurate box scores. But the real kicker, Caitlin didn't go alone. She brought her Fever Alliance, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull, as her caddies. They were laughing, making viral content, and having fun. It was a stark contrast to the miserable vibes coming out of the WNBA headquarters. It showed the world that the new WNBA, the younger generation, is tight, they're media savvy, and they don't need the league's permission to be stars. And that brings us to the panic inside the front office. The disconnect between the players and the commissioner has never been wider. Remember the Tiger Woods comment? During heated labor negotiations, reports leaked that Commissioner Engelbert told star player Nafisa Collier that Caitlin Clark was the Tiger Woods tie that lifts all boats, implying that the players should just be grateful the system exists. Whether she meant it that way or not, the damage was done. It was the smoking gun that validated every grievance. It got so bad that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver had to step in, the adult in the room, basically admitting that the WNBA leadership had lost control of the locker room. But if the internal drama is bad, the external threat is what really keeps these executives up at night. And this is where the money comes in. The WNBA is terrified because they are no longer the only game in town. We are looking at a 10x problem. Right now, the max salary in the WNBA is around $240,000. That's the ceiling. Enter Project B. This is a new global women's basketball league founded by Silicon Valley tech heavyweights and backed by investors like Novak Djokovic and Steve Young. They aren't offering $200 grand. They are offering starting salaries of $2 million. Think about that. If you are a WNBA superstar, staying loyal to the league is costing you nearly $2 million a year. And it's not hypothetical. They've already poached Nneka Ogwumike. She isn't just a star player. She is the president of the Players Association. When the head of your labor union leaves for a startup competitor, you know your business model is broken. There are even whispers. And keep in mind, these are unconfirmed but persistent rumors that Project B is preparing a Lionel Messi-style offer for Caitlin Clark. We're talking numbers floating around the $150 million mark. Even if that number is inflated, the mere existence of that kind of capital changes everything. The WNBA is bidding with pennies while their competitors are bidding with gold bars. And let's not forget Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league starting in Miami. They're offering equity, ownership stakes. The WNBA offers a handshake and a grueling travel schedule. This is why the league is spiraling. They are facing an existential threat. The collective bargaining agreement negotiations are stalled because the players know they have leverage for the first time in history. The threat of a lockout, or even a canceled 2026 season, is real. And if the league stops even for a moment, the sponsors who bet millions on the Caitlin Clark effect are going to panic and pull their money. Finally, there's you, the fans, the 200,000 hardcore loyalists who tune in specifically for Caitlin. The WNBA is realizing that this new fan base isn't loyal to the Shield, they are loyal to the talent. When the league messes up, when the officiating is bad, or when the disrespect gets too loud, these fans threaten to walk. And in this new economy, viewership is currency. So is the WNBA in panic mode? Absolutely. The monopoly is dead. The script is no longer being written in the league office. It's being written by tech moguls, by fed-up players, and by a fan base that knows its own power. The revolution is here, and for the WNBA, it's adapt or die. But to truly understand the magnitude of this collapse, we have to look away from the court and stare directly into the boardroom of the major media networks, because that is where the real leverage battle is being fought. And it is getting ugly. Let's talk about the television deal. The WNBA recently secured a historic media rights package. We're talking about a deal valued at $2.2 billion over 11 years. On paper, that looks like a victory lap. It looks like stability, but if you read the fine print, or if you understand how these corporations operate, you know that money isn't guaranteed. Disney, Amazon, and NBC didn't drop billions of dollars because they suddenly developed a deep passion for the fundamentals of the pick and roll. They paid that money for one reason: the Clark economy. They paid for the eyeballs she brings. Now imagine the scenario that is keeping executives at ESPN awake at night. We are staring down the barrel of the 2026 season. The collective bargaining agreement has expired. The players, emboldened by the massive offers from Project B and Unrivaled, decide to dig their heels in. They want 50% of the revenue. The owners, claiming they are still operating at a loss despite the revenue bump, refuse. The result? A lockout, a work stoppage. The screens go black. In the old days, a WNBA lockout would have been a blip on the sports radar. But now you have Disney and Amazon holding a $2 billion bag for a product that might not even take the floor. And here is the terrifying variable for the league. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA to stay relevant during a lockout. She has the golf pivot. She has the barstool connection. She has Unrivaled in Miami. She can stay on your screen, generating viral moments and selling sneakers, while the WNBA fades into obscurity. The league needs her infinitely more than she needs the league. That is a power dynamic that professional sports leagues are simply not designed to handle. Usually the shield is bigger than the player. In 2025, the player has become the shield. And speaking of sneakers, we have to address the Nike factor. This is the elephant in the room that the WNBA old guard hates to acknowledge. Caitlin Clark signed a $28 million deal with Nike. That deal alone pays her roughly 100 times her WNBA salary. Financially speaking, her job as being a Nike athlete, playing for the Indiana Fever, is just her side hustle. When your star player treats the league's salary like a rounding error in her bank account, she becomes ungovernable. You can't fine her into submission. You can't threaten her with a suspension because she can afford to sit out. This financial independence is what fuels the panic in the league office. They are used to controlling players through economic necessity. That lever is gone. Caitlin is the first sovereign state in the history of the WNBA, a corporation of one. But the threat isn't just about money, it's about the soul of the sport and the gatekeepers who are losing their grip on the narrative. We watched this play out all season long with the legacy media coverage. You saw it, the constant attempts to diminish her accomplishments, the refusal to give her credit for the ratings, the segments on major networks where analysts would twist themselves into pretzels to avoid praising her, focusing instead on physicality or growing pains. This wasn't just bad analysis, it was a desperate attempt to maintain the status quo. These gatekeepers spent decades building a specific hierarchy of who matters in women's basketball, and Caitlin Clark walked in and kicked the ladder over. The narrative insurgency we are seeing from the fans, the YouTubers, the Twitter sleuths, the independent podcasters is a direct rejection of that old guard. The fans realized that the people paid to tell them the truth about the game were actually gaslighting them, and this trust gap is dangerous. When the WNBA tries to sell a narrative now like we treat all players equally, nobody buys it. The audience has been radicalized by the evidence of their own eyes. They saw the hard fouls that weren't called flagrant. They saw the bizarre scheduling. They saw the commissioner's fumble. The league has lost the benefit of the doubt. Now, let's zoom out to the geopolitical chessboard, because Project B isn't just a disruptor, it's a potential moral crisis for the league. While the founders are tech moguls, the rumors of Saudi Arabian backing, specifically through the Public Investment Fund or its subsidiaries, draw a direct parallel to what happened in professional golf. We all watched Live Golf fracture the PGA Tour. It was messy, it was hostile, and in the end, the money won. The WNBA has always positioned itself as the moral conscience of sports, championing social justice, equality, and progressive values. But Project B is weaponizing capitalism against that morality. They are betting that when a player is looking at a $2 million check versus a $200,000 check, the moral high ground gets a lot harder to stand on. If top stars like Jewel Lloyd or Breanna Stewart defect to a league funded by foreign sovereign wealth, it exposes the WNBA's equity branding as fragile. It forces the league to admit that they have been underpaying their talent for decades. You can't pay people pennies and then shame them for taking dollars elsewhere. The loyalty tax is too high, and if Caitlin Clark were to even entertain an offer from Project B, even just a meeting, it would force the WNBA to completely capitulate on every demand she has. It would break the salary cap model forever. Closer to home, the panic is manifesting in the upcoming expansion draft. The Golden State Valkyries are entering the league. On the surface, expansion is good, but for the Clark stans, this is another source of anxiety. The rules of the expansion draft mean the Indiana Fever can only protect a certain number of players. We talked about the Fever Alliance, Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, the players who actually have Caitlin's back. There is a legitimate fear that the league or the expansion mechanics could break up this core group. If Lexi Hull, who became a fan favorite and a crucial floor spacer for Caitlin, gets snatched up by Golden State, it reinforces the targeted narrative. It will feel like the league is stripping away Caitlin's protection, leaving her isolated again. The chemistry we saw on the golf course, that joy and camaraderie, is a tangible asset. If the Fever front office or the league's expansion rules dismantle that, the fan backlash will be nuclear. It's not just about basketball fit, it's about the narrative that Caitlin is finally happy, finally settled, and now the system is coming to wreck it. Ultimately, what we are witnessing is the systemic fragility of a league that was never built for this level of scrutiny. The WNBA was built to be a subsidized charity case of the NBA, designed for slow, incremental growth. It was like a small local credit union that suddenly had $1 trillion deposited into its vault. The infrastructure broke, the servers crashed, the tellers panicked. Everything from the travel accommodations to the refereeing standards was exposed as amateur hour. The charter flight fiasco was the perfect example. They dragged their feet for years, claiming it was too expensive, and then the moment Caitlin arrived and the security concerns skyrocketed, they suddenly found the money. But even that was mishandled, with reports of shadow bans on talking about it and unequal implementation. It proved to the fans that the league only changes when it is shamed into changing. So, where does this leave us as we head toward 2026? We are looking at a complete geopolitical realignment of women's sports. The WNBA is no longer the destination, it is a stepping stone. Or worse, it is an obstacle. The panic is the realization that the product is leaving the building. The fans are ready to follow Caitlin to the LPGA, to Unrivaled, to a YouTube stream of a pickup game, or to a Rebel League funded by tech billions. The badge on the jersey doesn't matter anymore. The history of the league doesn't matter anymore. The WNBA executives are standing on the shore, yelling at the tide to stop coming in, but the water is rising. The Clark disruption isn't just a season, it's a permanent changing of the guard. The gatekeepers have been overrun. The economy has shifted. And for the first time in the history of the sport, the power doesn't rest with the commissioner, or the owners, or the networks. It rests in the hands of a 20-something girl from Iowa who can pull up from the logo and drain a three, and with the millions of people who will follow her wherever she goes. The panic is real. The only question left is what rises from the ashes.